Well, um, pleased or not so pleased to report that February has, in fact, lived up to its expectations and been quite the month of portent. So, lots of really small sounds of ice cracking at a distance, um, which in this particular case is heralding a huge avalanche coming right behind it. So, it will be interesting. So March and April should be some very interesting months. March in particular will be challenging, and we're gonna get all up in March's business in the next report for March. So just wanted to put this up there because as if we couldn't discuss this enough. So Uranus being the last minutes and seconds of Aries, or any sign for that matter, creates a lot more combustion and pressure and exaggeration and intensity of the planet involved as it's getting ready to change signs. So the thing about it is when you have personal planets in those last degrees of a sign, and the closer to the end you get, the more large this becomes, the more what is the word I'm looking for? Just overwhelming, right? A very overwhelming quality. So if planets at the very, very end of a sign always indicate an impatience or a reaching critical mass, okay? And this sense of needing to get on with things, and often feeling like you're being obstructed or held back or prevented from doing it, which, if you know anything about just general mechanics, right? So the more you restrain and harness and prevent energy from moving, the more it builds up, because it just ramps and ramps and goes round and round and round and just builds. And then whoosh, it goes when you finally let it go, right? If you take a boiling pot and you keep the lid on it and you prevent that steam from going anywhere, that steam builds up, it creates pressure. And once that pressure is released, pow, you have power. Same thing with rubber band. If you pull rubber band back farther, the further you pull it back and the more resistance you give it and hold it, keep it from releasing when you finally do let it go, pow, like the further it travels. So with planets at the last degrees of a sign, or even your ascendant, not your midheaven, but your ascendant, if the ascendant or planets are at the last degrees of a sign, that is the feeling that you get, this need or push to get on with things, and this constant feeling of resistance or pushback. And a lot of it has to do with creating or generating power, literally by making it a little difficult to just dissipate. So for those of you who carry planets at 27, 28, and 29 of any sign, you'll know what I'm talking about just by the way it feels, right? And all of these things will manifest or express themselves very uniquely depending on your life circumstances. But that one thing is always consistent and common. That's that feeling of needing to move forward and always feeling like people are in situations and circumstances are kind of preventing you from moving as quickly or as easily as you'd like. The other side of that, of course, is that when you finally are able to move forward, when you're finally released from your obstruction or your bondage, man, you have more power available to you than other people do. So, and people probably respond to that as well. Now, if it is harnessed in a productive direction and you're making good use of it and it has a proper context so that it makes sense, or so that you make sense where this is concerned, you can get a lot done and people will applaud you for your ferocity and your passion and your intensity and your power. The other side of that, of course, is that if you don't have a good vehicle or a good field to move in, right? If your trajectory is true, but your environment or vehicle is not, people are not going to be so kindly or appreciative of your general nature, and will probably accuse you of being pushy, bossy, domineering, impatient, overbearing, will come through a lot as well, or overly aggressive. So if you have planets in those last degrees, regardless of sign, and this is the kind of feedback that you're getting, you might want to check to see if you're really being true to yourself and giving yourself an adequate environment to express these things in, right? So listen, a a tiger is not a house cat. And you can take a tiger home and you can raise it like a house cat, but at the end of the day, the tiger is not going to make any sense in a house. And it's going to get very frustrated being there because the tiger instinctively knows that it needs a very different environment to express its true nature properly, right? Because if you keep it trapped in a house, it's just going to destroy the house, So you've got this beautiful creature that's very powerful, that's being penalized and not appreciated, not respected, and in many ways, resented and treated poorly because they're destroying everything around them, not because they're destructive animals, but because wrong place, wrong application. So for those of you with planets or the ascendant, not the Midheaven, the ascendant, at those last degrees, if you're getting too much pushback, you might want to ask yourself where you're putting your energy, and maybe it's time to find a different place to put yourself or a different vehicle to put yourself in. Just saying. So with that said, for all of us as a general thing, Uranus in these last minutes and seconds of the sign, and it will change over on March 6th. So come March 6th, it will have moved into Taurus. But right now, this week moving forward, and that first week of March, we got some stuff to deal with. So some of you, these last couple of days, may have noticed, I know I did, that your electronics or your technological equipment may have gotten a little wonky or gone a little haywire. So I have I have a computer that has crashed, and my cell phone now officially needs to go to the shop and get fixed because it's broken. Now it's really broken. Not having a good time. And I'm also having some issues with another service that's all, internet based, and it's talking to a friend in California. He's going through the same thing, having problems, weird, unexpected problems with his computer. So things that are Uranian, right? Things that have to do with technologies, future-oriented industries. I would be curious to see how Bitcoin is doing right now. And certainly after Uranus goes into Taurus. Things that have to do with computers and electronics, and the nervous system, by the way. All of these things are going to be really a bit wonky. So be extra patient with stuff. Don't get freaked out. Don't lose your temper as best you can. It's literally just the energy. It's too much. So the gremlins are in the machine everywhere right now. And it's not like a Mercury retrograde. We've got a hella Mercury retrograde coming up. This is a whole different animal. And just know that we've got about 2 weeks of this kind of weirdness and things breaking apart on us and breaking down, to deal with until Uranus gets out of this sign. So, and of course, when that happens, we'll have all new challenges. But the worst of this should be over. So, and right now should just be little glitches. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And if the worst you have to deal with is making some repairs and stuff, it's considered a safety warning that this was a weak spot anyway, right? So we're undergoing a stress test. So that's it. Now, the thing I just want to add here before I go, so the reason I kept saying the Ascendant and not the Midheaven is because the Ascendant and the Midheaven will give you two very different results when they're in those last degrees. So the Ascendant, remember, the Ascendant, the Sun and the Moon, the Ascendant, the Sun and the Moon. These are the three most important points in your chart. This triad, this triangle, right? The trinity of you. This is the definition of you. Essentially, everything else is details and window dressing and style, but ultimately the three legs on the table are the Sun, the Moon, and the Ascendant. So all of things have everything to do with how you express yourself and go through the world, right? The Midheaven, on the other hand, has everything to do with your career, obviously, but more than career, it's about how you participate in the world and your value to the world around you and how you best fit into that. So when we have a career or even a job, this is how we provide service to the world around us. Everybody has to work and participate and give something back. And this is how we do that, which is why we often associate it with work. But it's more about reputation and things from a distance. And there's a lot here, and I can't get into it, or this can be a 3-hour video. So when the Midheaven is in those last degrees, okay, this is a very different thing, because what this typically indicates, and it can indicate many things, but one of the primary things that it will indicate is this sense of needing to get it done right this time. So it can have weird effects on career and profession and reputational stuff, but ultimately the individual will feel like they really need to get it right this time when it comes to how they're living and what needs to get done. So that intensity, that forcefulness, that resistance that creates power because you're harnessing it, you're not letting it dissipate. All of these things become laser focused in terms of how we're contributing to the world. Okay, so there's often a sense of impatience and urgency when it comes to careers and public identities and, things that we need to do out in the world because it matters. So there's that. Now, obviously, not everybody is going to go on to become a saint or an advocate or a champion of other people and do meaningful work for the masses in this lifetime. It could also be that all this energy is just kind of being wasted because the person's just not applying it. And again, like I said before, when you're finding yourself getting a lot of pushback and resistance and a lot of negative feedback about you being, XYZ negative qualities, chances are it's actually you needing to find a place to direct that energy in that part of your essential nature that has a more natural context. Literally, you're in your right church, wrong pew. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, being who you're supposed to be, but in the environment that you're in, you're not making sense. So people can't give you positive responses to that because you don't, whatever it is that you're doing or whoever you're being in that place isn't working for you or anybody else. So that's something to consider as well. And that is why you get an astrology reading, or a good one anyway, not this fluffy, oh, you're a Virgo, oh, whatever. I'm sorry. When people are stressed, they're going to be a little snarky, and I apologize for that. So I am certainly no exception. All right, so folks, that's it. So remember, be patient with customer service people, servants, all this sort of stuff. Especially where your technologies are concerned, everything's going to be a little weird for about 2 weeks. But it will be resolvable, and all of these things are always a stress test to show you where something's weak, where you need to reconsider how you're protecting yourself from these things. And also, nervous systems. Uranus also rules the nervous system. So if you don't meditate, this is a great time to start. I don't recommend drinking, although it will certainly seem like an option. Meditation, soothing things. I would not get involved in anything that's very nerve jangling. Even like with a heavy death thrash metal, I don't even know what this stuff is. If you listen to it, the more rhythmic stuff that kind of gets you into like a consistent sort of hypnotic trance beat is going to be better than the stuff that's just like, oh my God, like the chaotic static noise, right? But you'll know. So that's that. Extra B vitamins, because the nervous system does respond well to B vitamins, specifically B complex. That will help for those of you who are very stressed out. But, as always, check with your physician about supplements and all sort of stuff. Be moderate in your drinking and understand that drinking will not help. So the drinking may dull you, but it won't soothe you. And if your nerves are jangled, it's because this Uranus in those last minutes and seconds. So meditation, developing a meditation practice or a quiet time and dropping into that quiet space is the only antidote for that right now. Sleep may just be disrupted. So plan ahead for that. Try not to plan too much into your day or your evening schedule. Allow yourself time for naps. I'm not kidding. Allow yourself time to naps because you may not be sleeping through the night. So some of you may be waking up in the middle of the night. Some of you may be going to bed super early. You know what I mean? And waking up late and needing more sleep than usual. It's literally all nervous system exhaustion and certainly nervous system kind of going haywire a little bit. So with that said, make sure you keep a loose, light, flexible schedule as best you can, with opportunities to shut down and take mini naps if you need to, just to kind of get yourself back together again. And for those of you who participate in recreational drug usage, which I do not approve of, which also includes, by the way, prescription drugs. Like, so if you're indulging in prescription drugs, it doesn't make it better because your doctor prescribed it. This is not the best time to get involved or to start really making liberal use of nervines and anxiolytics. So things like Xanax and, anything that affects your nervous system, that's to calm your nerves, right? The next 2 weeks are going to be very challenging to get through. They're not the best time to get involved in anything that affects the nervous system that is not absolutely necessary, meaning you're not recovering from a surgery or anything like that. And even then it may have weird effects. So just don't. There are better ways to deal with these things. And finally, for those of you who are active, as adults, married or not married, monogamous or not monogamous, regardless of how you label your relationship, all right, listen, just between you and me, all right, because I'm not going to tell, and I certainly don't know, because I have no idea who you are on the other side of this computer, but listen, don't be stupid. All right. So you tell your partner whatever you want to tell your partner, but the next 2 weeks you need to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. So no messing around, no taking chances, no taking risks, either physically, like because you're not using protection, or socially and emotionally because you're messing around with people you shouldn't be messing around with. This is not the time, because I can promise you that if you start taking unnecessary risks over the next 2 weeks while Uranus is getting ready to transition right into Taurus, this will not end well. This will not end well. And the price for this is going to be much higher than you think and impossible to recover from. So if you really feel the need to get out of your relationship, there are easier, less messy, destructive ways to do it. And that's exactly what you're looking at for if you do stupid things over the next couple of weeks. So be clean, play safe, put it away, wrap it up for 2 weeks, right? Walk the walk as you're talking the talk. And for the rest of you, try to be kind to each other, because you never know which one of your coworkers is really, or family or friends, like is really kind of going through this stuff, right? So that's it. March horoscopes will be up shortly. You guys be good. Bye.